Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Reed Hadley stars in this Brucel-produced Western adventure, Frontier Town. This episode, entitled Fort Disaster, was originally broadcast on June 19th, 1953.
Frontier Town, the saga of the Roaring West. Frontier Town. El Paso, Cheyenne, Calgary, Tombstone. Frontier Town. Here is the adventurous story of the early West, the tamed and the untamed. From the Pecos to Powder River, Dodge City to Poker Flat. These are the towns they fought to live in and lived to fight for. Teeming crucibles of pioneer freedom. Frontier Town!
Howdy there. If you're ever in a frontier town called Dos Rios, with the frontier being what it is, you'll probably get into trouble. And if you do get into trouble, you'll probably be needing a frontier lawyer. So if and when you do, here's your invitation to look me up. My professional card reads, Chad Remington, attorney at law. But the way things happen on the frontier, I've been giving a lot of thought to changing my card so that it will read, Chad Remington, attorney at gun law. Yes, sir, there's trouble aplenty on the frontier. And whatever it is, along with my riding partner, Cherokee O'Bannon, I seem to end up smack dab in the middle of it. Do you think I'm exaggerating? Well, let's take what happened not too far from Dos Rios at a cavalry post, Fort Disaster. Because of a savage outbreak of lawlessness in the territory which seemed to be the work of a double-dyed, case-hardened crook known as the Dallas Kid, the Army had decided to reopen and reman the old frontier stockade known as Fort Disaster. When the new commandant, Colonel Carpenter, learned that he was being transferred into my neck of the woods, he wrote me a note asking me to drop in on him. But before Cherokee and I could get there, and even before the colonel and his command reached Fort Disaster, the Dallas Kid swooped down with all the fury of a hurricane.
Colonel! Yes, Sergeant? We're outnumbered, sir, at least 2 to 1.
Good, Sergeant. Tell my son I want to see him at once.
Lieutenant Carpenter, sir. I'll give him the colonel's instructions immediately.
And so it was that when Cherokee and I arrived at Fort Disaster, Colonel Carpenter was dead, and Larry, the colonel's lieutenant son, was in temporary command.
That's about all there is to it, Chad. Being on a route march, we were scarcely prepared for anything like that, and they caught us napping, I guess.
Well, all I can say, Lieutenant, is your father's death is a great loss to the Army and to the whole country.
And imagine how I feel. I spent the last 6 months trying to be transferred to my father's command. And then after only 2 days with him, this had to happen.
Well, Larry, I'd cut off my right arm to bring your dad back if it would do any good. I don't suppose he ever told you, but a few years ago he got himself badly shot up saving my life.
No, he never did. But you know Dad. He never talked very much.
But since we can't bring him back, I can certainly help you with your mission out here.
Well, that's the least we can do.
Are you sure, Larry, that it was the Dallas Kid who attacked you?
As sure as I can be. They weren't Indians or other troops. Besides, who else would want to keep the cavalry out of here?
Yes, I suppose you're right. Have you any information at all on this Dallas Kid?
Well, if we had, do you think I'd be sitting around here? If we could find his hideout, we'd blast him out with Gatling guns. All I know is that he must have more spies than the entire Army. Every time the U.S. Marshal tries to trap him one place, the Dallas Kid pulls a robbery or raid the opposite end of the state.
I'm afraid, Larry, that the only thing to do with a critter like that is to trick him into pulling a prearranged raid.
Prearranged raid?
What Chad means is for you to bait your own trap. force his hand and be laying for him.
That's a great theory. But how are you going to force his hand when you don't know where he is?
I've never yet seen a wolf pack that didn't come down for water, or a pack of gun-toters that didn't like to drink.
Now, Chad, that isn't a nice thing to say. Drinking is a very sociable habit. And now that I think about it, I'm starting to feel quite sociable.
Well, I'm afraid that I don't quite see what you're talking about.
In a nutshell, having successfully raided you, I think the Dallas Kid and his gang are probably celebrating in some nearby town. Maybe Durango or Shiprock, or... A better possibility is that little new town, Deadfall.
But even with my troops, we can't surround the whole town.
Of course not. But not being known in these parts, there's no reason I can't cruise around these towns until I find the Dallas Kid.
Chad Remington, have you the gall to stand there and say you think you can capture the Dallas Kid single-handed?
Oh, I certainly haven't, Cherokee. But I could let him sniff the bait for the trap I have in mind.
Trap? What trap?
The trap I was just talking about. Now, let's just suppose that I get him to thinking that your troops are going to escort a $500,000 gold shipment coming through from Nevada. Now, don't you think that he'd at least make a stab at trying to get his hands on that much money?
Oh, Chad, that's just too much risk for one man to take.
There was a lot of risk your father took the day he saved my life.
Yes, but what about this trumped-up gold shipment? How will I know? Tell me something. What am I supposed to do?
Lieutenant, you make all arrangements to escort a decoy wagon train through Wolf Creek Pass the day after tomorrow. And I'll see that Cherokee gets back to you with some sort of definite word before then.
But Chad...
Now, there are no ifs, ands, or buts about this, Larry. You've got your job to do, and we've got ours. And before we waste any more time arguing, Cherokee and I are hitting the trail for Deadfall. The night was half gone by the time we reached Deadfall. And being a new town of only 14 buildings, 11 of which were saloons, it was another few hours before I could pull Cherokee away from the various bars as we looked in desperation for someone who might seem to be the Dallas Kid. As Cherokee and I made our rounds, the Kid himself was enjoying life, according to his lights, in the Bobtail Straight Bar.
How about it, Bella? Another bottle of champagne?
Sure. I got lots of time, and you got lots of money.
You'd like lots of money for yourself, wouldn't you?
I ain't working here just for the excitement.
Yeah. Now, don't turn around. Just look in the mirror. See that Jasper with the gray hair sitting behind us at that third table drinking a beer?
Yeah. That's Matt Fitzgerald. He rides shotgun for Wells Fargo.
You're all right, Bella. You know what goes on.
In this business, a girl's got to. I learned a long time ago to keep my eyes open and my mouth shut.
Meaning what?
Oh, for example, I can tell you where you come from the clothes you're wearing. But I ain't going around telling anybody.
Where do I come from?
Texas.
What part of Texas?
Northeast Texas.
Couldn't call the town, could you?
That's easy. Dallas.
You're all right, Bella. All right. Just as long as you keep your mouth shut.
What about, Matt Fitzgerald, Dallas?
I notice he's been watching you. Go on over. Sit with him.
What for?
For money. If you happen to let me know when Wells Fargo is hauling money, you'll get 10%.
Don't go away. I'll be back. Right back.
Sure, it was luck. But as Cherokee and I came into the Bobtail Strait and stood looking around, Bella attracted our attention. So did the man she was talking to at the bar. When I saw her leave the bar and head for a table, I had a feeling I might find something out. So I turned to Cherokee and... Cherokee, wait for me outside.
But Chad, we only...
Outside, Cherokee, and fast. I'm going over and sit at that empty table right behind the one the girl's sitting down there. Now, go on, vamoose. I sat at the table, ordered a drink, and maneuvered my chair around to where I could just barely hear what was being said at the table behind me.
Why, sure, Matt. I'd love to see you after I'm through work, but tonight I'm too tired.
Oh, what do you mean you're too tired? Come on, fella, what do you say?
Some other night, Matt. Any other night. You just name it. Tomorrow?
Well, I'd like to make it tomorrow, but I can't possibly make it tomorrow. You see, I'm working.
Working?
Yeah.
You mean you gotta ride shotgun again for Wells Fargo?
I'm riding shotgun again for Wells Fargo.
Oh, don't be a chump, honey.
What do you mean?
Tell him you're sick. Just don't show up.
Well, I'd sure like to, brother, but I can't tell him I'm going to be sick tomorrow because tomorrow's a little bit too important. You see, they're hauling silver for one of the mines up at Montrose.
Oh? Well... Look, Matt.
Yeah?
After you get back, come on in.
After I get back, I will come on.
I'll be here and...
Bella, how
I'll
about...
be here, Matt. Just waiting for you. If you get back.
It was luck, all right. But now that I had the same information the Dallas Kid was getting, I paid for my drink, hustled outside, and held a little powwow with Cherokee.
But how in the name of Billy Blue Blazes do you know that's the Dallas Kid who was at the bar?
I don't, Cherokee, for sure. But I am sure that Maverick was up to no good and just wanted the information about the Wells Fargo shipment.
So?
So you and I are getting that silver off the Wells Fargo wagon before they do. And you're taking it to the lieutenant over at Fort Disaster.
I'm taking it. What's going to happen to you?
Well, Cherokee, I'm going to do a very stupid thing right after we hold up that Wells Fargo wagon. I'm going to be so stupid that I'm going to get myself caught.
June 19th, 1953, Frontier Town on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Hey gang, just a note to let you know that we've notified all of our radio stations that our final episode of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox will be broadcast on all of our radio stations on June 30th of 2023. It is not something of your radio station. It's not because you haven't been responsive. It's because my doctors have said I need to take time off, and I need to take a significant time off. I can no longer work 90 hours a week. It's just that simple. So to let you know, listen to the shows, enjoy the shows while you can. Go to our friend Ted at RadioMemories.com. He supplies a lot of shows. And go to our webpage at classicradio.stream and learn how you can build your own classic radio collection. But again, June 30th will end Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. And now, more of Frontier Town, Fort Disaster, as it was broadcast June 19th, 1953.
Did I hear you mutter something about fool luck? Well, if you did, you're right both ways from the middle. I was a fool, and we certainly played in luck. But the trail was too hot and too new to give up that easily. So Cherokee and I sashayed down and, taking our lives in our hands, waved the express wagon to a stop. Sorry to hold you up this way, but...
Hey, if you're really planning on holding us up, this here rifle has a little habit of talking, and it's liable to talk right in your face.
All I want is to have you turn that silver you're carrying over to us.
What?
And if you don't give it to us, the Dallas Kid is waiting for you just up ahead.
Dallas Kid? Hey, what are you talking about anyhow?
It isn't what I'm talking about, Matt. It's what you talked about last night in the Bobtail Straight Bar to a young so-called lady by the name of Bella.
Bella? Wait just a minute. What do you know about Bella?
Why, you unmitigated imbecile? Didn't you realize she was pumping you to find out about this shipment?
Now, if you're looking for credentials, we got plenty of them. What I want to do is to have my partner here take the strong box with the silver in it over to Fort Disaster for safekeeping for a while.
Let your partner take the strong box.
Yeah.
Just a minute. What's the idea of that?
Well, I want to see if we can't make the Dallas Kid think I'm a bigger crook than he is. Well, sir, I was lucky again. Lucky that Matt Fitzgerald believed me. So loading the box of silver aboard Cherokee's horse and waiting until he was on his way, Matt and I staged the doggonedest running gunfight anyone ever saw, heading right for the spot where the Dallas Kid, or at least Bella's bar companion, lay in wait.
All right, boys, grab those bridles and pull that wagon to a stop. Keep 'em covered, boys. Now you, who are you? What are you doing here?
Say, I don't know who you are, but this long-legged Lobo's been chasing me for the last 2 miles, trying to stick up my wagon. It's a lucky thing that you fellas came along.
I'll say it is. I'd have had that silver and been back up in the hills by this time.
Yeah? Well, we'll save you the trouble, mister. All right, you. We're taking the silver.
Silver? What silver are you talking about?
Don't be so smart. The silver you were hauling down from Montrose.
The silver, right? Ho, ho! So that's what all the reception committee was about, eh? Well, let me tell you something, friend. The joke's on you. When I got up to Montrose, I found they shipped the silver out yesterday by muleback.
He's lying. Come on, let's search the wagon.
Just a minute. If you know what's good for you, you'll keep out of this.
But I tell you...
Shut up. Mike, pull that tarpaulin off. See what he's got in the back of the wagon.
Right, Dallas. Hey, I'm telling you, there's nothing there.
Never mind telling. Well, Mike?
Sure, nothing in the wagon. It's plumb empty.
What?
See? What'd I tell you? Well, can I go now?
Yeah, go on. Beat it.
Wait a minute, mister, and I'll ride along with you.
Oh, no, you don't. You're coming with us, my friend. You and me, we're going to have a little talk.
You didn't think you were the only one who could find out about that silver shipment, did you?
That's not answering my question. I asked you how come you figured you could take that Wells Fargo wagon alone.
I never found the game yet where I needed someone to back my play.
Pretty salty, ain't you?
No. Just figure I got a good head on my shoulders.
You keep talking like that, and I'll blow the head right off your shoulders.
I don't think you could.
Oh, no?
No. You need a gun for that. Only you haven't got a gun anymore. I've got it.
Mister, you are fast. That's the first time anybody's got my gun out of my holster before I could reach it. You and me, we ought to be playing on the same team.
I don't know. Who are you?
Who are you?
Montana's the name I go by, if that means anything to you.
I've heard a lot of gents called Montana.
Yeah. So have the sheriffs and marshals in about 9 states. But that isn't telling me who you are.
The handle's Dallas.
The Dallas Kid?
The handle's Dallas.
Okay, Dallas. Maybe I could use you at that.
You use me?
That's right. Because the job that really brought me down this neck of the woods may be too big even for me.
Job?
Government money. $500,000 in gold.
What's the deal?
50 to me, 50 to you and your boys.
Fair enough. Where is the dinero?
It's coming. Coming in army wagons. But don't let that worry you. I know when and where, and I got the whole thing figured out. All you got to do is...
I got something here for you. Come on, you blasphemous bushwhacker, let me go.
Who's this, Mike?
When we split us right back to town, we came across this lummox, and what do you think he was toting? That silver box off the Wells Fargo wagon.
What? Why,
Let me handle this, Dallas. Now listen, you red-nosed, pasty-looking scarecrow. You got about 3 seconds to start talking. We want to know who you are and if you work for Wells Fargo. I said I wanted an answer.
Billy Blue Blazes, what sort of a yellow-spined creature are you taking advantage of an old man?
Now, are you going to answer my question?
Take it easy, Montana. He's so scared now he can hardly talk.
He won't be able to talk when I get through with him. Now, where did you get that silver?
Well, the mine hired me. I was supposed to pack it down because they were afraid the wagon would be held up.
I think you're lying.
I don't think he's lying. Remember what the shotgun guard said?
Yeah, and I think he was lying, too. Well, it'll be the last lie this one will tell because I'm going to...
Hey, doggone it, Montana, you loco. I don't want any gunplay in here. You'd only bring the whole town running. And then where'd we be with... Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, okay. I still think he's lying, though. And before he makes any more trouble for us, have some of your boys tie him up.
Tie him up? What for?
Because I got an idea how we can use this crummy old saddle bum up at Wolf Creek Pass when the government tries to get their gold shipment through. Now, for the life of me, I can't tell you why I did what I did when poor Cherokee showed up. Except that I instinctively realized if I didn't do something to make Dallas feel we were strangers, he might put two and two together and get me. Now, believe me, it hurt me worse than it hurt Cherokee. And I didn't pull my punches with him either. But when it came to saving both our lives, I figured that a few skin knuckles or a bruise on Cherokee's cheek was at least a reasonable price to pay.
June 19th, 1953, Frontier Town on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Just going to take a minute here to tell you about the big savings going on now, the clearance sale at mypillow.com. And you know, I've talked about how in my office I have a pair of my slippers, and they're really comfortable, and they're on clearance right now. The mypillow.com slippers, $25 a pair, limit 10. And I would buy 3 or 4 more pairs. Unfortunately, they're out of my size. They also have sheets, pillowcases, clothing items, all on special right now. Go to mypillow.com, click on the clearance tab at the top of the page, use my promo code Wyatt, or call 1-800-928-4715. Limited sizes remaining in the MyPillow slippers, limited colors on other items. mypillow.com, clearance tab, promo code Wyatt, 1-800-928-4715. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Thank this station, support their advertisers. If you let them know, we hopefully will stay here for a good long time. Thank this station, because it's their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be here. Now the conclusion of Frontier Town, starring Reed Hadley in the Tale of Fort Disaster, June 19th, 1953.
Although I didn't know it then, Cherokee being caught was only half of my pat little plan, which had gone haywire. The other thing that happened, well, take it from me, nobody could have anticipated. Having told the Dallas kid about the hypothetical gold shipment coming through Wolf Creek Pass, I couldn't back out now, even though I knew Cherokee hadn't gotten through to give Lieutenant Carpenter the message. But while I was debating what I'd tell Dallas when the wagons didn't show up, out at Fort Disaster, the lieutenant got a surprise of his own.
Sergeant, this just doesn't make sense. See, Chad promised that Cherokee would bring word back to us if we were supposed to drive those decoy wagons through Wolf Creek Pass.
I know that, Lieutenant. But the courier just brought in this message, and as you can see, it's official. Signed by the adjutant himself. And they're shipping $100,000 in gold for payroll purposes.
Oh. Well, while we're out trying to protect the actual wagon train, what happens if Chad does succeed in getting the Dallas kid and his gang up into Wolf Creek Pass?
I'm sure I don't know, Lieutenant. But this is an order signed by the adjutant to the commanding general of the area. And if, begging the lieutenant's pardon, I know that old curmudgeon, well, you'd better be having the bugler blow boots and saddles and getting the troops ready to ride.
Yes, of all things, an actual gold shipment going through Wolf Creek Pass. and I was leading the Dallas kid there to get it. Now, fortunately, I knew nothing about it and walked into my own trap as innocent as a newborn babe. The only thing I did do was to make sure that Cherokee was brought with us. And it wasn't because of any feeling I had that he might come in handy.
All right, boys. Button up your lips and listen to what Montana has to say.
Quiet.
All right, it's all very simple. Now, there are 33 of us, and we're splitting up and lining both sides of the pass. You're to spread out about 20 yards apart, understand?
Well, we got that.
Now, Dallas and I are staying right here where we can see both ends of this pass together. When we figure that we got them hemmed in, we'll throw the first shot from here. That'll be the signal.
That's a good idea.
And remember, there's to be no shooting until the first shot from up here. Now, go on. Get to your places.
All right.
I gotta hand it to you, Montana. This is about as perfect an ambush as I've ever seen. But what are you gonna do with this maverick you made us bring along? You said you had some way you were gonna use him, too.
I have. And to start with, I'm going to untie him.
Untie him? You got bats in your belfry?
Sure, I'm local, completely batty. Now, don't you see, if we untie him, and then when the shooting starts, we put a slug through him and leave him down there, and they find him, they'll figure that not only did he swipe the Montrose silver shipment, but also was the Jasper behind this deal.
Say, that's really thinking. Sure. Knowing who he is, they'll figure that he was behind the whole thing. And when they bury him, they'll think they got the man they've been looking for.
Yeah. Hold your hands out while I cut those ropes.
Chad, how are we ever going to get out of this?
I don't know, Cherokee, but...
Hey, Montana. Here come the army wagons now.
Army wagons?
Oh, Billy Blue Blazes, Chad, he's right. See, down there. 3 U.S. Army wagons. It's the real thing.
What in blazes are you two talking about?
Well, we were just... Cherokee, quick, lend me a hand.
What, you backbiting juggle?
Chad, I got his gun.
Don't let him fire it, Cherokee. If those men hear it, they'll think it's the signal to attack.
I'll run through it. Run a plug.
I got his gun, Chad.
I've found his jaw.
Well, we got him, Chad, but how in the name of my holy aunt are we going to save that government wagon train?
Well, we might as well die trying.
Chad, maybe we're dead now. I think I'm hearing music.
Music? You bird brain clown, you. That music is a bugle. A cavalry bugle. I don't know how it happened, Cherokee, but here comes Lieutenant Carpenter and all of his troops.
Cavalry? Well, Chad, do you realize this changes the entire course of history?
Course of history? What do you mean?
Why, in any books I've read, it's not supposed to be the cavalry. It's always the Marines who come to the rescue.
Well, come on, Cherokee. We'll change the course of history right back to its normal channels ourselves. We're going to ride down there and get in on that fight. And you can be General Cherokee O'Bannon of the Horse Marine.
Frontier Town, starring Reed Hadley and featuring Wade Crosby, is a Bruce Ells production. Supervised and directed by Paul Franklin. Music written and played by Ivan Ditmars. Be sure to be with us again, same time next week, for another fine action-adventure story with your favorite young Western star, Reed Hadley. And now this is Bill Foreman telling you that Frontier Town comes to you from Hollywood.
June 19th, 1953, Frontier Town on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite radio station. And thanks to Ted at RadioMemories.com for supplying us this episode of Lum and Abner. This episode from June 19th, 1935 asks the question, will Squire Skimp get arrested?
everybody. Here we are, all ready to take you down to Pine Ridge for another visit with Lum and Abner. Brought to you by the makers of Horlicks, the original malted milk. And now, let's see what's happening down in Pine Ridge. Even though Squire Skimp is violating an old city ordinance by operating a theater on the second floor of a building in Pine Ridge, Lum refuses to issue a warrant closing his competitor's place of business. Abner thinks this would be a simple way to eliminate competition. And as we look in on the Jot 'em Down store today, we find the old fellow still arguing about the matter. Listen.
Well, Abner, I don't want us to have to resort to no underhanded tic-tacs like that. If we can't get our share of the business fair and square, I just don't want it.
Well, that ain't underhanded. The law says that you can't run a theater upstairs here in Pine Ridge, and that's what Squire's are doing. He's making a violate of the law every time he opens them doors.
Yeah, but that's a old law that ought to have been appealed long ago.
Yeah, but it wasn't, Lum, and it's still a law. And Grandpappy Spears said that he wanted you to swear out a warrant for his arrest.
Well, Grandpap's just mad 'cause he got fired, and he just wants me to close him up over there to get even with Squire.
Well, that ain't your lookout. You're the justice of the peace, and when someone comes to you and wants you to make out a warrant, well, you've got to do it.
Well, I don't care what I'm supposed to do. I ain't going to do it, and that settles it. I don't want everybody here in Pine Ridge going around saying I taken advantage of my office to illuminate competition.
Well, Grandpap was over here a while ago, and he wanted to know if I'd served them papers, and I just told him that you wouldn't make 'em out. He said he was going to start a movement to get you thrown out of office. He was awful mad about it, just raved and
Might
stormed.
as well stop arguing with me, Abner. My mind's made up. You're just wasting your breath.
Well, Dad, blame it, what's the use to have, Lord, if... Huh?
Huh?
Yeah, what did you say about my breath?
I say you're just wasting it arguing with me.
Oh, well, I don't care about that. There's plenty more where it come from.
Plenty more what?
Breath. I don't mind wasting it. There's full of it.
Yeah, but there ain't no use to waste it. It ain't doing you no good.
Well, how you gonna waste your breath?
Why are you talking all the time like you do when you ain't getting nowhere?
I ain't trying to get nowhere. I'm just setting.
I mean you ain't getting nowhere with your talk, wasting your breath.
And it don't take a bit more breath to talk than it does to just breathe. May as well be getting some use out of it. Just let the words go out with your breathing.
That's just what you're doing, too. Just letting your words run out with your breathing.
Yeah, that's what I say. It ain't no trouble. I just open my mouth and there they come.
That's just the way you sound, too. Just about that much thought behind what you say.
Thought behind it?
Yeah, you ought to weigh your words before you say 'em.
Weigh 'em?
Yes, weigh 'em.
I never would get nothing said if I had to stop and weigh every word.
Well, that's what you ought to do anyway, to sound intelligence.
Yeah, I never knowed that before.
And it's a good rule to follow, like that old lettered saying of mine. Speech is silver and silence is gold. No, that don't work very well.
Hello?
Hello, what are you doing?
Hello? No, hello don't weigh very much, or these scales ain't working very well on.
What are you trying to do anyway?
Well, I'm trying to weigh a word here, but it must be too light for these scales. What's a good heavy word?
Lead,
Lead!
Oh,
lead.
for goodness sake.
I don't get that done or not. Did you see her run up there then? Went might nigh up to 20. No, I had my hand on it already.
Get away from them scales, Abner. Now, just leave 'em alone. Sit down there.
Well, I'm just trying to do what you
I
told.
know what you're trying to do.
You said I ought to weigh every word.
I said you're supposed to weigh 'em before you say 'em.
Well, how you going to weigh something before you've got it?
Before you've got it?
Yeah, it ain't a word till you get it said, and then it's too late to weigh it.
Abner, I don't mean weigh 'em on a pair of scales. Weigh 'em in your head.
In my head?
Yeah.
Have I got something in my head that I can weigh 'em with?
Now, the way you talk, I don't think you got nothing up there.
Well, how am I going to weigh 'em up there if there ain't nothing there to weigh 'em with?
I don't reckon you can. Just forget about it. Forget about it.
I don't believe I can neither.
You're supposed to think before you say something. Study it over good. I don't mean sure enough waste stuff.
Well, what about potatoes?
What about 'em?
If somebody comes in here wanting some potatoes, why, You want me to just think about them and study them over good instead of putting them up on the scales and weighing them?
Oh, for goodness sake. Course not, course not. I'm just talking about things you say. When you're talking, watch what you say.
Watch it.
Watch your words. See that you're saying the right thing.
Oh, for goodness sakes, Lump. Who ever heard of seeing words? You say 'em, but you can't see 'em.
Course not, course not.
Doggies, now come to think about it. Do they look like smoke?
Like smoke?
Yeah, does words look like smoke?
Not that I know of.
And I just going to say, in cold weather when I talk, why, there's something that comes out of my mouth that looks like smoke.
That ain't words, Abner. That's your breath. You can't see words.
Oh, yes, you can, too. Or some of them you can, I know. What about a newspaper? They got words all over 'em.
Well, that's reading, though. I'm talking about talking words.
Oh, yeah, you might be right there.
And just forget about words.
I kind of like to talk about them, Lon.
I see you do.
I never had thought much about them before. Just sort of took them for granted, I reckon. Words. Reckon what happens to 'em after you get done saying 'em, Lon?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. Just float around in the air, I reckon. I'd love to see all the words that's ever been said stacked up in a big pile sometime. Law me, no telling how far up in the sky that would go, is it? Bound you about half of 'em be Sister Simpson's, too, amount of talking she does.
Yeah, for goodness sakes, Abner, you can talk more foolishness than one man I ever seen in my life.
That ain't foolishness. I'd love to see 'em. It'd look awful funny to see all the words that anybody'd ever said all together that way.
Wait a minute. Yonder comes Dick and Grandpap. Thank goodness for that. I won't have to put up with this no longer. Now, don't get to asking them anything about words. They'll think you've lost your mind. That ain't no secret to me no longer.
No, and I reckon that's 'cause you know me so well. What did you say?
Nothing. Just be quiet. Quit talking so much.
Reckon what Dick and Grandpap's a wanting anyway.
I don't know. Hope Grandpap's changed his mind about swearing out warrant against Squire.
Swan Lum, you're the beatin'est feller I ever seen in my life.
Well, gentlemen.
Well, howdy, Lum. Hello, Abner. Yeah, howdy. Come in.
What you fellers wearing such long faces about? Looks like you just heard judgment was a-coming in the morning.
No, we want to have a little talk with you, Lum.
Yeah, Abner told me a while ago that you refused to get out them papers against Squire Skimp, Lum, and I went down and told Dick about it, and he feels just like I do.
Yeah, Lum, if that's a violation of a city ordinance to operate a picture show on the second floor of a building that way, and Grandpap wants you to make out a complaint, why, there's no reason why you shouldn't issue the warrant.
Well, the thing of it is, Dick, that old ordinance was passed way back in the early days of Pine Ridge. Nobody don't pay no attention to them old laws no more. There's another in there about somebody having to carry a lantern and a red flag out in front of an automobile when it's going down the street.
Well, they may not enforce them, but they're still laws. Until they're struck off the record, well, they're laws and they should be abided by.
Well, you think we ought to go around arresting folks for driving automobiles unless they got somebody walking along in front of them?
Well, no, but that isn't like this other one, Lum. It doesn't risk the people's lives around here like this theater law.
Yeah, but if I was to close Squire Skimp up, everybody in town would say I just done it to get shut of her competition.
I know, but that isn't the point, Lum. You took this office and swore that you'd carry out the law.
Well, I'm just trying to do right, Dick.
Yeah, you're just afeard of Squire. That's what's the matter with you.
No, it ain't that, Grandpap. If Abner and me wasn't in the picture show business ourselves, and you come in here and swore out a warrant, I'd go ahead,
now, regardless of what your feelings are in it, the place ought to be closed. All the big crowds he's having in there and just got that one little stairway for him to get out.
Yeah.
If a fire was to break out up there, why, they'd be trapped like rats.
Grannies, I never thought about that.
Well, that's the truth.
Why, they can't hardly get out of there when the show's over now. That stairway ain't over 3 foot wide. Why, it's worth a body's life to try to get out of there when the show's over. Me and Elizabeth was over there the other night. Of all the pushing and shoving, I never seen the like of it in my life. And if a fire was to break out, what would it be like?
Why, it'd be terrible. They'd stack up in that stairway there till couldn't nobody get out. That old frame building is just a regular fire trap anyway.
Sure it is. It'd burn just like kindling wood.
Think of the children, Lum. If you refuse to issue a warrant closing that place and anything happens over there, why, you'd be indirectly responsible for those lives. You just can't let that show stay up there.
I don't know what to do.
Well, now, Grandpap and I, as taxpayers, are demanding that you close that place up. I know how you feel about it, and I admire you for it. But I'm telling you right now, if you don't do something before night, well, we'll find some other way to have it done.
Well, all right. We'll close him up.
And wouldn't we all like to be present and see that warrant served? And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's another remarkable tribute to the healing powers of Horlick's malted milk. It's in the form of a letter from Mrs. B.M.E. of Edgewater Park, New Jersey. Listen.
3 years ago, I was on a liner en route to Singapore from Italy. On board was a fellow passenger who was so ill from stomach trouble he couldn't even keep a teaspoonful of water on his stomach. One night I was told he was dying and wouldn't let the ship's MD or any foreign person attend him, so I decided to try and help him myself. I had a bottle of Horlick's malted milk, so I mixed some with hot water and sent it to the man, suggesting that he take a teaspoonful every 5 or 10 minutes until it was gone. The next day, people were all talking about his recovery and the remedy, and I was for a day a hero. After that, he was able to drink water and take light food and made a remarkable comeback. Later, I was told that his trouble was stomach ulcers and that the Horlicks helped him by forming a poultice on the lining of his stomach.
A very interesting letter, Mrs. B.M.E. We're certainly glad that you wrote and told us your experience. Horlicks, you know, has been of tremendous value in many other similar cases ever since it was discovered over 50 years ago. This is Carlton Brickert, speaking for Lum and Abner and Horlicks, who now bid you all good night and good health.
Now, of course, Horlicks is no longer available in the U.S., but I will say don't put any, no medical issues. You can't put trust and faith in that anymore simply because back in those days you could say those sort of things without a big ability to prove them. But it's yummy. I will tell you that malted milk is yummy. Lum and Abner, June 19th, 1935 on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thanks to Ted at RadioMemories.com. RadioMemories.com, who supplies us these shows and lots of other shows restored on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer. RadioMemories.com. Our webpage, classicradio.stream. You can stream our shows, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can find our social media links there. You can also buy me a copy so that you can learn about, help us to acquire additional classic radio collections and maintain our distribution channels. That's all at classicradio.stream. Classicradio.stream. Have yourself a great day, won't you please? Thank this radio station. Support their advertisers. Tell your friends the greatest radio shows of all time are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.